There's something very peculiar about my life during this dark season. My hormones are raging. My sexual hormones are raging. When you exit a...
Yeah, so I guess the production straight up said, let's go straight into the sex. This is the portion of a video where you're basically giving a highlight of what is to come. This is where you capture people's attention so that they can stay watching. So right off the bat, it's the skin on skin, man. That's the topic. That is what's being sold. I mean, I don't know, man, why there's so much sex being sold out here, It's not everything about life. And I don't know, man, if I'm coming up with a term in my head for certain people. I see them as sex merchants. You see, they appear to be celebrities, but it's sex, everything, and you might really grow up thinking that life is like that. Sex is a segment of life to, generally talk about and be really curious about, and spend your time looking for toys, spend your time figuring out if you like boys or girls, and then wearing a rainbow shirt and then join a community of people who define themselves by sex, have friends on the basis of sex. Man, I don't know if we need so much more sex going forward. But hey, let's just go into it and see what's going on.
When you exit a relationship and you're not happy about that relationship, the one thing that you will go for is learn a people.
What you find a lot of ladies will enjoy is even with penetrative intimacy, it is that
so the second clip of the hook, that straight up going to the small penis so that you can know that this show is real, man. We are going to straight up talk about penises and we're going to talk about penetrative.
It is that stimulation on top of the clitoris, right?
I had a psychiatrist that I asked the same question to. Why am I so damn horny?
And the problem... Horny. Throw all the buzzwords at this video, man. We're going to hook these people by hook or crook, selling sex.
Therein is that God has such a high standard for human sexuality. It's such a beautiful thing.
And it seems they've called somebody who is a man of God, I don't know, or a pastor or something who is bringing biblical context to this discussion. And there's already eyes being rolled, to communicate that, hey, these are the insane people on this side, people of God, people who say that sex is dangerous and you shouldn't play with it. Treat it with some sense. You gotta roll your eyes at them.
Such a holy thing.
What is virginity?
This thing, she's very powerful.
Let me feel.
Yeah. This thing, she's not too bad.
This is not too bad at all.
Hey sexies, welcome to this episode of Dineo on Sex and Stuff.
I wouldn't be surprised if Dineo launches a sex toys online store to support this. You'll probably merchandise and squeeze something out of this. These are sex shops now, ladies and gentlemen. Hustler, the shops you used to see Estradini, and you'd be curious as a kid about what's happening there. Hustler is now the celebrities. This is the hustle. The hustle is sex.
Hey sexies, welcome to this episode of Dineo on Sex and Stuff. So obviously, I've been making headlines for my mental health and this and that and the other. And yes, it's a serious affair. It's a really, really big deal. Hence, I want to have these sorts of conversations because during this entire dark episode that you guys have been reading about and discussing amongst yourselves and so and so and so and so, I'm the only person who knows the facts about what I've been going through and my personal journey through this dark time. And everything has been superbly serious. I take mental health extremely serious. I take my personal health very serious. And I just take life in general quite serious. However, there's something very peculiar about my life during this dark season. My hormones are raging. My sexual hormones are raging. And I feel like I need to talk to people that can help me understand the wirings of the link between sexual health and mental health. And I'm of the mind that if we were to really have a strong sexual health.
So on the list of things that are important for a person, this is, ladies and gentlemen, a woman who has been, I don't know if she's going through the most or if this is how she has designed her life. You know, I'm quite critical of somebody with high status like this, you know, somebody who's very confident, well known, successful. You know, you're not a South African who is going to a pit toilet. You're not a young woman who is without, you know, sanitary pads. You are Dineo Ranaka. And it's strange to me that you're constantly going through a lot of problems. You can afford a psychiatrist. You can afford a psychologist. You're beautiful. You can have a man if you want. But then you're always the victim, you know? You're always crashing. Your life is always falling apart. Society is always concerned about you, you know. Bring the CPR. Dino is about to die. Everybody's like always like this. And I don't get it. I don't get it. I don't get it. Aren't we distracted? Aren't there people out there who need mental health, you know, intervention? You know, why is there some vulnerable narcissism going on? Why does it seem like this successful woman is just swimming inside a pool of pity? You know, she's the female black child in South Africa that people are concerned about, you know? And she trumps up her issues. She's not solving them. She wears them as her brand. When will Dineo Ranaka solve her issues? Are they solvable? Is it worthy to always live in your problems and, you know, glorify them? Without them, don't you have anything? What if you were to be Dineo Ranaka, who is healthy, who goes to the gym, who has been well for a while, who's not wrapped up in controversy? What would happen then? Would that be a problem because people wouldn't feel sorry for you?
Mental health and spiritual health, I think the world would be a better place. So joining me today is
Sexual health, mental health, and spiritual health. So firstly, on her list of priorities of how she gets to be sane and healthy, sex. Isn't that screwed up?
Dr. Zende, one of my favorite doctors under the sun. She's absolutely amazing. I cannot wait to dig deep into her mind and her experience. I've got Pastor Neville from Rhema. Thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate having a spiritual leader in the midst of conversations like this. Love, love, love that. Pindila Dogberry, girl, how you doing, honey?
Well, thank you.
Fantastic. I'm going to start with Dr. Zende. You're not only a gynecologist, you're a sexologist. By definition, sexologist would be, to anyone listening that does not understand, what is a sexologist? Are you a sex educator, sex coach?
So it's a cross between understanding how the body works, from your hormones to how it layers into your mental health, like you're saying, but also how it translates into how we experience our sexuality.
Yeah.
And being able to look at issues that affect your sexual life.
Yeah.
So sometimes understanding the normal, but also when things are not going okay, are there any biological issues underlying? How do we treat it? Can we treat it? Does it need medication? Does it need therapy? Does it need a spiritual aspect to it? We often say the largest sex organ is the brain, actually.
Yes.
You know,
yes.
And so being able to understand that our bodies, we are not just physical, it's layers of who we are. And so being able to assist or help people when they're going through things that affect their sexuality, we come in and we see how we can assist.
And this is exactly why I want to have this conversation, particularly with medical experts, because I've had conversations with friends of mine that went through depression and their libido was superbly low during those times. Mine is contrast of that. So I'm living with hypothyroidism, layered on temporal lobe epilepsy, layered on severe chronic depression and meds for all of that.
She's got all sorts of problems.
The side effects of these meds, most of them, is a low libido. My man is...
So you've got all of these problems and all of these meds to help you with all of these problems, and then all of these problems lead to another problem, which is low libido. Problems on problems. And she wears goat skin. She's a pagan. She believes in Isintu spirituality. She believes in speaking to the dead. She believes in sangomas, mediums, people who can help her in the way that she believes she can be helped best, but she still has a lot of problems. Ladies and gentlemen, if your aspiration is to become, a celebrity, and to know your ancestors and your African spirituality. Once you have all of that together, once you've got a job, you're well spoken, you're beautiful, you've got money, you're always on TV, you're always on YouTube, you're always in the newspapers, it's a dope life. It's a dope life. Let's not start now giving celebrities and rich people, like, let's not cut them like slack like that, man. It's a good life. That's a good life. And then when you have this good life at the top there, with all your ancestors and all your medication, you've got problems. Hey, man, something is wrong.
Struggling to keep up, but he is, and I'm so proud of him because he's really helping me along. And I find that when I am sexually satisfied,
Yes.
I find that my body reacts and responds to sexual intercourse, pleasure rather, orgasm and such, in a better way than it responds to my medication. And I'm not writing off medication. I'm not saying my medication is wrong. But based on my personal experience, the energy that I get from sexual intercourse and the pleasure thereafter, it feels more sustainable and it feels healthier than how I feel after I take my meds.
So sex is working better than your medication. Ladies and gentlemen, do you notice how these celebrity ladies like to be the Cleopatra of society, the Aphrodites, the sex symbols, they like to talk about how horny they are. Imagine if that became an example for men in general who are all over, podcasts and their own personal platforms. Like, I really don't think that we've ever seen a time and place where men, spoke like this about themselves. This is selling yourself. You are part of the package. You are part of the business. You are part of the hustle. You are the brand of the merchandise that you're selling. Sex, you see. Why? What's with these ladies and the desire that they want from society, the desire for their body, the desire for them to tell the whole world about how, horny they are. I talk like that sometimes, especially because I'm married and I'm dispelling myths and prejudices that people have about a marriage, because people think that we are bored together, me and my wife. So sometimes I like to just fire off some posts over there to show people that, nah, shit, there's spice going on out here. When told, think differently about marriage. But this is a different kind of talking about sex. They're selling something. I'm defending a particular, institution. We're only 6 minutes in, man. I talk too much.
And I don't think I'm the only one person who says that the side effects of the meds that we take when we're going through depression and we've got all these other chronic illnesses, they really have dampering side effects. Why is it that medically, when we're sitting with our doctors and this is how sex makes us feel, they don't try and sneak it in there as a prescription and a bold statement prescription to say, I would also advise while taking your medication, have more sex.
Yeah.
But help.
I have a fit.
Healthy sex.
Yeah. I think it actually speaks a lot to the kind of society that we live in, the kind of how we still see sexual pleasure as something that is hush hush. We don't talk about it, and yet you'll find we say it takes a little bit of everything. It's the medication.
Why do people still claim that people are not talking about sex? It's hush hush. We're living in the age and time where the envelope is completely torn. Sex is everywhere. Shaka Ilembe. I think there's a series that came out. I haven't watched it on Netflix, apparently. People were tweeting out how they were shocked to get hit by a production, a fictional, story that is traditional and wholesome and something that you'd want to watch with your family. But apparently, chigi chigi, the penis went flying in, man. So people are out here still saying that we're not talking about it enough. Like, what is this manipulative psycho game? Why are people doing one thing and saying that we don't have enough of it? Why do we have too much of certain things and people saying that we still need more?
It's what you eat. It is exercise, but not very often do people come out and say, actually having a healthy relationship, because I like also to call it sexual intimacy, which is more a spectrum rather than one particular act. So feeling closer to the people that you love, that actually stimulates certain hormones, things like oxytocin, for example, which is like encourages bonding. And also it works sort of like in an opposite way. When you are feeling loved, your depressive symptoms are much better. When you are alone, when you are in despair, when you are not in a happy place, that actually is a vicious cycle that makes the mental health even worse off. So we technically should be encouraging relationships, healthy relationships, healthy sexual intimacy during the time when we are at our lowest, because that definitely does boost. There's endorphins that come through. Those are all happy hormones, but they come from the, like I said, healthy and responsible way of interacting with our sexuality.
Let me interpret it this way. You've heard it said that sex is a drug. For people who've been addicted to drugs, they'll say, yo, this thing, man, the closest comparison that we have in nature, this synthetic drug, this lab-made thing, what makes it so, irresistible? What gives it such a pull is that it's like what sex does to a person. It moves your body. It moves your legs. It moves you to want information about it. It moves you to look at someone and make plans to talk to them and call them and raise them up and bring them to your place. You understand? It's a drug. It does quite a lot. So is Dineo saying that as a drug, doctors should recommend it and say, here's a drug that you should take? And I want to know, with what limit do you tell people to take this drug? Because it can really fuck them up. But hey, we're split in a world where some people say there's too much drugs and too much sex. And some people say, let's legalize all drugs and let's have more sex. Which side are you on?
There we go. You mentioned a word, taboo, and I want to run with that. Pastor, I'm going to bring this word to you. Religion, in my opinion, tries its level best to control sex, particularly where females are concerned.
Okay.
Young boys by their fathers are encouraged, by some fathers, not all, and this is not a blanket generalization, right? Most young boys are encouraged to masturbate.
That's a blanket statement. And shortly before you give out the blanket statement, you're like, this is not a blanket statement, but most young men. What is with this voodoo, y'all? How do you intelligent people listen to this?
When young girls touch themselves or even think to touch themselves down there, don't. That's a naughty place. That's this, that's that. Why is it that religion has such a strong stance against things like masturbation and just a single human being's sexual expression?
So maybe because young girls will go from touching themselves to sleeping with boys at a young age and they'll get pregnant. And it'll lead maybe to high abortion rates. It'll lead to girls who are fucked up, because an abortion isn't something that is beautiful. It's something that is horrible to the conscience and to your body, you see. So I don't know. Is Dineo trying to give a solution to society, or is she? So I don't know. Is Dineo trying to give a solution to society, or is she trying to problematize a society? Pump it with more sex, pump it to younger girls, and never mind the consequences. Or when the consequences come, that's what allows you to be a radio personality. You're the counselor now, so you created a problem on one end and now you go and catch it when it comes out the other end. And you're like, hey, sexual intimacy, you need to practice it like this. But at first you were like, why aren't we releasing it to all of these girls to have it? This is problematic, y'all. But I think, hey man, they were about to let the pastor speak there, but the electricity is about to go off. So let me hold this for now. Maybe there'll be a part 2 of a reaction to this where I just let them talk. I'm interested in what the pastor is going to say over there, but for now, let's just hold it over here, man. Do we need more sex advertised to everyone and to an increasingly younger audience? This question also goes to the LGBT and trans community. There's a movement out there that wants to bring sexual education, one told, of a destructive kind to younger and younger audiences. I don't know what the motivation for these people is. What is there profit? Seems like there definitely is. It gives you a livelihood, and it's being a sex merchant, yo. Peace out. I'll see you next time.